الحمد لله تعالى نحمده سبحانه ونستعين به ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا وسيئات اعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. نشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له. نشهد ان محمدا عبده ونبيه ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى اله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. ثم اما بعد، اشهد ان اصدق الحديث كتاب الله، وخير الهدي وافضل الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم، وشر الامور محدثاتها وكل محدثه بدعه وكل بدعه ضلاله وكل ضلاله في النار، ونعوذ بالله تعالى من عذابه ومن النار. Begin by praising Allah the Most High, the Most Exalted, the Most Honorable, the Most Merciful. We testify to His oneness and greatness. We testify to the Prophet that He sent to guide humanity until the end of time, Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, the son of Abdul Muttalib. We beg and ask and pray that Allah Azza wa Jal showers Muhammad and his family and his community and all those who struggle to find His guidance until the end of time with the finest peace and blessings from above seven heavens. And we ask Him Jalla fi'ala to allow us to be of those that follow His guidance, and not of those that lead or are led astray from the path that He treaded. Ameen Allahumma ameen. My brothers and sisters, we see recently, after a glorious couple of days of the beginning of the Hajj, and after a fun time hopefully with our family and our friends during Eid, I think we came back to reality a little bit recently, especially with all that's going on in the world, that again Muslims and Islam generally are under a microscope again. Muslims and Islam are being asked the same questions that they were asked, are being given the same questions that were given probably post 9/11 and post some of the other major issues that we had in the world. And Muslims again are being questioned, Islam again is being questioned. And I wanted inshallah today to take a few minutes with you to reflect on a very, very important message that was left to us. This message is one of those that is marked in the books of history. It is words that will forever be written, forever will be said. Forever humanity will have to go back to these words and listen to them, because their meaning and their purpose, their blessings and the understanding that it gives is so far profound, just those words in that time. And with all that's going on today, from Bill Maher attacking Islam, calling all Muslims and Islam an evil entity on earth, to Pamela Geller and the ads in our own MTA and on subways and buses, Muslims are being asked, who are you and what are you? And so our response should be these beautiful days of the Hajj, after the glorious pillar that was performed by millions of Hajj, of the last sermon, the last khutbah, the final message that our Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he gave to humanity. His last message that he gave before his death, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In the 10th year after migrating to Medina, the first and last time that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would perform the correct pillars of Hajj. The Prophet ﷺ met in the 10th year of Hijrah 100,000 believers, 100,000 men and women from across and around the Arabian Peninsula. Many of them he has never met, he's never seen. Many of them, hundreds of them, have never seen him, have never met him, have never heard his voice, have never seen his face. But they accepted his message, they accepted his call, they followed his way of living. And it would be the last message that he would give all of them. Now remember, in a world where there is no internet, there's no TV, there's no Twitter, there's no Facebook, there's no newspapers, giving a message to hundreds and thousands across a large geographic area is extremely difficult. It's almost impossible at his time. But a message that he would give to 100,000 men and women, that he would write, that the books of history would write until the end of time, as this khutbah, or the farewell sermon, khutbah al-wada' of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, given exactly a week ago in this month, 1400 years ago. What was that message? And how is it relevant to us today? How does it still resonate, meaning with us today? And so standing for the first time in front of 100,000 people, leaving after he left Mecca, he was evicted from Mecca with only 150 people that believed in his message. And now he's standing in the last year of his life in front of 100,000 people. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح وَرَأَيْتَ النَّاسَ يَدْخُلُونَ فِي دِينِ اللَّهِ أَفْوَاجًا. That's why that surah came down telling the Prophet, if you see the people entering in waves and huge numbers, it's the end of your life, O Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. 100,000. And he addressed the people after praising and glorifying Allah as we do every Friday, and as he did every Friday. And he said, أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ, O people, اسمعوا مني, listen to me. فإني لا أدري. I don't know if this will be the last time that I stand in front of you in this place. أيها الناس, O people, not O believers. He knew where these words would go. They would go into every corner of every building until the end of time. أيها الناس اسمعوا. أيها الناس أي يوم هذا. O people, what is this day? And it was the glorious day of Arafah, the greatest day of the year, the most blessed day of the year. They said today is the sacred day, it's the holy day of Allah, one of the days of Allah. And he said, أَيُّ شَهْرٍ هَذَا, what is this month? And they said, O Messenger of Allah, this is one of the sacred months, one of the glorious months, it's the month of pilgrimage. And he said, أَيُّ بَلَدٍ هَذَا, and what is this land? This is the sacred land of Allah. This is the sacred earth that Allah anointed as the most holiest place on earth. Then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to begin the last sermon of the last Hajj, of the last moments of his life. إِنَّ دِمَاءَكُمْ وَأَمْوَالَكُمْ حَرَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. O people, your blood, your lives, your souls, your being, and your money, your wealth, your property, your family, your possessions, your responsibilities are sacred upon you. They are sanctified in front of you. They are preserved to all of you until you meet your Lord, until you stand in front of your Creator. كَيَوْمِكُمْ هَذَا فِي شَهْرِكُمْ هَذَا فِي بَلَدٌ هَذَا. They are just as sacred, they are just as holy, they are just as important as this day, as this month, as this month. A message that begins with the most important values of Islam. What is the message of Islam? Why did Islam come? Why was Muhammad sent? To preserve the lives and property of people. To preserve the life of those that will come until the end of time. To make sure that the money and the souls of people will be protected until they meet their Lord, Jannah Firdaus. إِنَّ دِمَاءَكُمْ وَأَمْوَالَكُمْ حَرَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. A message number one of life. There is nothing more important than life. There is nothing more important than the preservation of life and the preservation of soul. It is the dua of Ibrahim, our father and his father, alayhi salam, that said, رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا آمِنًا. Oh Allah, the reason why we go to Hajj and the reason why millions made Hajj under no bombs and under no death and under no bloodshed was to call the hands of Ibrahim that were raised that said, oh Allah, make this land a safe and peaceful land. It is the message of his father and it's the message of his last Hajj. إِنَّ دِمَاءَكُمْ وَأَمْوَالَكُمْ حَرَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ. In the month that we celebrate the sacrifice of Ibrahim, where he was supposed to take the life of his son. But Allah Azza wa Jalla reminded us of the honor of life, that reminded us of the sanctity of life, that said, you've passed the test right when he had the knife on his neck. He said, no, life is preserved, and you can take the life of something else. The remembrance of life is the first message and the last sermon of the Prophet ﷺ. And wallahi, in the world that we live in today, for Muslims and non-Muslims, for those that love Islam and hate Islam, wallahi, this message needs to re-resonate, that Muslims are the one that sanctify the life of people. All people, every person, every color, every race, every age, every gender, doesn't matter. That the preservation of life and soul and blood, and the preservation of wealth and money and property is the message of Islam. It's the final message of Muhammad ﷺ. It's the final wasiyah, the final advice that he gave to humanity, that this is to be preserved. And if all the things that are going on, from Muslims that are committing atrocities and non-Muslims that are committing atrocities, then we stand up for the principle and the value of life and property. And he continued, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because he then begins to talk about the things that made people kill one another, that made people want to destroy one another, take their money, take their property, take their country, steal their homes, destroy their homes. He talked about things that would lead to killing and stealing of property and responsibility. Then he says, none of you is to take the trust of your brother. None of you is to take the property of your brother. None of you is to take interest or indulge in interest, because it destroys and leads to destruction of life and property. Because SubhanAllah started to analyze the words of the Prophet ﷺ, and he's giving a message that's far beyond just the simple words that maybe those Arabs, they ever understood can go. Wallahi, the great men and women that believed in the Prophet ﷺ, they couldn't realize how forward-thinking the Prophet ﷺ was. That this message would be the code of life for not just the Muslims, but for humanity to understand. That property is sanctified, trusts are sanctified, amana is sanctified. That interest and taking money illegally from people for no reason than to just put more money in your pocket than to the person in front of you would lead not just to killing, but to a system of killing, to a system of oppression, to a system of stealing people's homes and destroying their homes, a system of world politics that takes from the poor and gives to the rich, a system of world politics that takes from the needy and gives to the one that has a lot, a system of world economics that leads to the destruction and bankruptcy of millions of people every day, just because a small few can make money from the rest of the bunch. It is mind-boggling how amazing the words of the Prophet, his wasiyah, his advice resonates until today. The killing and destruction and invasion of homes and lands and property, and those that steal money illegally and trust them, don't have a responsibility to their positions of governance or to their neighbors or to their co-workers or to those around them. It's an amazing message. Ayyuhan nas, O people, inna shaitan, the devil, will no longer yes and yu'bad fi ardikum hadi. The devil has lost all hope to ever be worshipped in this land. The devil will no longer ever be worshipped in your land. It was the amazing feat and the amazing success of the amazing message of Muhammad ﷺ that the people accepted an amazing creed, an amazing system of life, an amazing ethical and value system, that they shunned everything from the old Jahil days. He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, everything from the Jahiliyyah is mawdu'a, it's abrogated, it's gone. It no longer exists. All the evil customs of the killing and the torturing, all the evil ways, they're all gone. Inna shaitan, yes, he no longer has hope to be worshipped in this land. Walakin, but he is pleased to be listened and obeyed in things less than that. The separation of families, husband and wife, fighting and arguing, the destruction of mother and father, the destruction of the neighbor unit, the destruction of the community unit, the destruction of the simple ibadat that we do, from our salat to our zakah, to smiling and giving handshakes, everything the shaitan has used to not be worshipped anymore, but to do everything that's less than that, to deviate the people from the path, to destroy their message and the message of the prophets. It's an amazing understanding that we can have of these words, that when we look at every small crevice, especially Islam and how we think about Islam, or how we understand and give Islam to others, that shaitan, and it is known by the scholars that when shaitan doesn't have shirk, that the thing that's right under shirk, before major sin, is what we know as bid'ah, innovation. Innovating in the faith. Because people, when they innovate, as it's commonly said, and we always hear about the words of innovation. Everything that leads astray leads to the fire. Every bid'ah is a dalala, every dalala leads to the fire. So may Allah protect us from bid'ah and the fire. But the bid'ah that shaitan starts with, my brothers and sisters, is not many times what young people argue about is giving a salam after you say salam alaikum after salah. Or using a masbah as one American student that traveled from Brooklyn that wanted to study in a country across the sea. He came back and he got a master's degree from an Islamic Studies university. He came back and the first book he wrote for Muslims in America is how the masbah is a bid'ah. Wasted or used 7 years of your life to come back and tell Muslims in a land where they are losing their faith and their way of living that a bid'ah is used a couple of beads to say subhanallah. Now I don't have a problem if somebody disagrees with that, but the first bid'ah that ever came was the bid'ah to take the life of people under the banner of Islam. Can you imagine that all the scholars and all the hadith of the Prophet, they first came to tell us of an innovative group. It's actually known as those that deviate. The Muqtada'ah, the Khawarij. The ones that will come in the name of Islam and take the lives of people under the name of Islam. And the Prophet said, they exit Islam like an arrow exits a bow. يخرجون في كل أرض. They will exit out of every land that you are in until you meet a Dajjal. The bid'ah of taking life under the use of Quran and Sunnah. The bid'ah, the innovation of massacring people and killing people and removing people from the faith and the way of living under the name of Islam. Shaitan uses that bid'ah and many other great bid'ah that are so much more important to be fought and understood than these simple things that people go around nowadays, from MSA to MSA, from college to college, from masjid to masjid, policing people about these small little things. It's understanding that shaitan, he uses a process of deviating the people. And wallahi, just to get off of this point, it was these same people that killed and murdered the great Uthman. It was these same people that killed and murdered the great Ali. It was these same people that wanted to assassinate Amr bin As and Az-Zubayr bin Awwam. It's the same people. They claimed it as being deviants and those that are against Islam, that they would stand in front of the house of Ali radiallahu anhu, the scholar, the great man, the great cousin of the Prophet, the one that the Prophet raised in his house, that they would stand in front of his house and they would make 2 lines between him and the masjid every day, 5 times a day. When he would walk to go from his house to the masjid, these people, they would stand in front of his house and make 2 lines so that he would have to walk in between him and say, Ya Adu Allah, Ya Kafir, to Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu. See, we have to understand that extremism didn't start with the CIA. didn't start with intelligence agencies, as many times many Muslims tend to give the story. Now, of course, without a doubt, and especially to the younger Muslim men and women, there are many people that will come up to you, and myself and others, they come up to you and you know their words. You know what they're saying, you know who they are. You can smell them from a mile away, that they're just trying to destroy your life and your family's life. You can see them from miles away. And we need to be aware, and we need to be wise, and we need to be more conscious, not because we're scared, because we stand on true principles. But extremist Muslims didn't start yesterday. They didn't start when Fox News told us. They didn't start when television existed. They started at the very inception of Islam with the greatest generation to ever exist, and they started with the greatest innovations to ever exist. Taking the lives of people, claiming this under Islam. It is this amazing understanding that we get from the message of the Prophet ﷺ. ألا هل بلغت اللهم اشهد. Have I conveyed the message? He said, yes, O Messenger of Allah. He said, oh Allah, be witness. Then he continued to talk about the property of, or the responsibility of the men. Talked about the importance of the women. Then he said, أيها الناس إنما المؤمنون إخوة. O believing men, O people, the Muslim community, the Muslim faith, the people that claim and testify to this amazing faith, they are nothing but brothers and sisters. They are nothing but brethren in faith. They are nothing less than having this high level of love and compassion and brotherhood to one another. And then he said, sallallahu he continued, because it's not a matter of just saying it. He said, do not take from each other illegally. Do not use the money or the property of your brother illegally. Do not take or destroy or decrease from your brother illegally. Don't you dare fight after I'm gone, as you did in the past. I left you a message, a way. لن تضلوا أبدا. You will never be astray if you just stick to it. And he said, sallallahu Kitab Allah, the book of God Almighty. I've left it for you, amongst you, with you, so you never go back. So you never go back to, again, understanding the culture of the Arabs. Understanding the people that he's talking to. These are people, they didn't understand unity and teamwork. They didn't understand being cohesive and all together and all for one another. They never understood the idea that we are all equal. We are all the same. We all have the same responsibilities. We can all work together. My family is not better than your family. My tribe is not better than yours. They didn't understand this way of living. They didn't understand from all the cultural stuff that was put in from the Jahiliyyah. Then the Prophet ﷺ had to take time in the khutbah, this last sermon, to tell them that all the old traditions, look at these Arabs, the people that he was dealing with, they used to mix the days of the sacred months. So the Prophet ﷺ had to speak about Rajab, and the months that are haram, and how they cannot be moved as the Arabs used to move them. So when you read the khutbah, you're like, what is this? I don't understand. Why is he talking about months and days and times? It's because the Arabs messed up something that was sanctified, the days of Allah. And the Prophet was telling them that everything that was inserted into this way, everything that's in your culture, everything that you think is from the proper message of Ibrahim, that it's destroyed other than what I've taught you. SubhanAllah. Even every detail of, even the calendar was described by the Prophet how we should correctly be. And then he goes back and reminds the people, don't you dare kill one another. Don't you dare take each other's lives and property. Be one, be together. Understand, as he says, أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ إِنَّ رَبَّكُمْ وَاحِدٌ وإن أباكم واحد كلكم لآدم وآدم من تراب. O people, your master and creator is one. Your father is one. All of you came from Adam. and Adam came from dirt. Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. Understand that the best and most honorable, and if you want to compete and you want to have an ambition or you want to be proud of something, don't be proud of a country or a tribe or a name of a family, but be proud that the one that's closest and best and most dutiful to his Creator, to his Lord, to his Master, to his deity, is the best of you at the end of the day. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه غفور رحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. نشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد على آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. Brothers, can move up inshallah just a little bit, close the spaces as people are coming in and back inshallah. The lessons for the brothers and sisters that just came, the lessons that we can learn from the last message, the last great khutbah of the Prophet ﷺ, the last months of his life, during the last Hajj that he ever, first and last Hajj that he ever performed, in the days of the Hajj, to be reminded of this amazing message. A message that was given as an advice, as a reminder, as words that should be honored and inscripted into the hearts and minds of every believer and every human to ever come. That the message of the last messenger to be guided and instructed by the Creator, to guide humanity, is a message that reminds us of these great purposes, the great goals of life and why we're living here. Why are we here and where are we going and what are we supposed to be doing? And subhanAllah, these, as I continue to remind you, understanding as the Prophet had to understand, the men and women that he had never met before, he had never seen before, most of them, but giving them something that they will never forget, that they will always understand, this is how I will live my life, even if I fail in everything else. That I understand that this last words that I heard from the mouth of the greatest messenger to exist was this message about life and sanctity of life and property, of brothers and sisters, of people and humanity that should understand and come together to come to the realization that their Lord is one, their Creator is one, their Master is one, their Father is one. All of us are equal because we are all from dirt. And the greatest and most dignified of us are those most dutiful to their Creator and Master. No Arab is better than a non-Arab. No man that didn't choose where he was born is better than another man who didn't choose where or to whom or when he was born. Inna akramakum inda Allahi atqakum. And then he finishes sallallahu alayhi wa sallam by saying, Ayyuhan nas, O people, have you heard the message? Have you heard the advice? Did you understand what I said? They said yes. He said, فَلْيُبَلِّغْ الشَّاهِدْ مِنْكُمُ الْغَائِبِ. So let every single one of you that hears me to tell the ones that are not here, the ones that will come a year later, and 10, and 100, and 1,000, to tell the ones that will come 10,000 years from today, to tell them the same words, to tell them the same message, to remind them that this is the message of the last messenger to exist. And wallahi, again, my brothers and sisters, we need to be reminded sometimes. We need to understand, even though maybe we've heard it many times, or we've thought about it, we've read it, we've seen it, we've posted it, that this great message of the Prophet ﷺ in these blessed months should remind us, especially in the world we live today, especially when Muslims in Islam are being attacked, when everyone is looking at us again and saying, who are you and why are you like this? Why do you guys act like this? And why is it only Islam? And why is it only Muslims? Then we remind them of the true message of the Prophet ﷺ. It is not, my brothers and sisters, to take some notes for us today. Number one, we have to be reminded over and over, as the Prophet ﷺ reminded over and over, about what are the goals of Islam. Why does Islam exist, and what's the point of it, and why am I Muslim, and why should I agree with everything that's being said? that Islam came with one goal for humanity, that it came to preserve and protect, to bring peace to their internal and external ways of living, to their life and their living internally and externally, to bring peace and to bring happiness to their bodies and to their souls. That's the goal of Islam. And everything that Islam came with, the message of Islam, and everything that comes after it, is all encompassed around this goal. Preserve life. Sanctify life and soul. Sanctify the mind of people. Sanctify the family unit. Sanctify the money and property. All of these great goals are a reminder in this message, in this great khutbah. And it's something that, subhanAllah, we are instructed, we are obliged to remind ourselves and our children, to remind all those around us that this is the goal. This is why Islam came, to preserve the theological identity of God Almighty and to preserve the way of living of God Almighty. Number one. Number two, it's very important for me and you as Muslims to understand and always go back, as the Prophet ﷺ says in this khutbah, that there are so many things that get thrown into the message as time goes on. It was the Millat Abikum Ibrahim, this beautiful path that Abraham alayhi salam, he paved for the Arabs to follow in, for humanity to follow in. But as time went on, they added and subtracted. They lost and they confused and so much got corrupted. The message got destroyed. And so with Islam today, my brothers and sisters, we need to make a concerted effort with mind and heart to bring Islam, not to the Islam we see in some country or some place, some people, that we bring Islam back to the understanding of the Prophet ﷺ and his great students and his great community. See, Islam and Islam other than their Islam is not an Islam. An Islam that is taken by people to give a message, to give goals to people, to lead people and humanity and civilizations to something other than what they brought is not Islam. And we cannot understand it, even if the scholars of the world, they said it. Now, I'm not a very young man. Don't take it from me. But Muslims, especially the younger Muslim community, they always have so many questions. They always have so many things that they want to ask. And we continue sometimes as Muslims to regurgitate what my mom's sheikh said, or what my dad's sheikh said, or what we heard once upon a time in some village, or what we heard once upon a time in some city. Notions like when a young man comes up and he says, you know, why should I believe in God? Or why aren't there two gods? You know, my mom, she told me, you know, how can there be two gods? They'll disagree and they'll fight with one another. I went to philosophy class and my professor bashed that argument. Kindergarten argument. How can I go to my college professor and tell him, they'll fight one another? It's a very kindergarten level argument, but that's what his mom told him. His mom told him, go tell your professor that. People with a PhD, they don't accept and respect that kind of argument. We have to mature as Muslims. We have to understand Islam better. We have to understand the meanings of Islam better. We have to give a better. The fahm, the understanding of Islam is more important than memorizing a whole bunch of things that we don't know. Wallahi, this message is more crucial to Muslims in America than all the other Muslims living around the world. It is this message, a ummah, a community, that's 60% under the age of 25. They need to start not changing, but understanding better in a world that's different than any other world that's existed, how to convey the message of Muhammad ﷺ. How to make those words understood in the minds, not of Arabs that don't know how to read and write, that live in farms and have goats and sheep, but of PhD professors and doctors and lawyers, of people from the most sophisticated walks of life to understand, I understand what is Islam, and I understand the message of Muhammad, and I know these Muslims, whatever they're doing, is not that message, defeats that goal and that purpose. reinventing and understanding us as Muslims, our children, having a better grasp and understanding of Islam. It requires hard work. It doesn't require, it's not reading the Quran once a month or opening up a book of Islam once a year. It requires hard work. The last thing, فَلْيُبَلِّغْ مِنْكُمْ, so let every single one of you, فَلْيُبَلِّغْ الشَّاهِدْ مِنْكُمُ الْغَائِبِ, let everyone that heard this message, he is responsible to bring the message to someone else. It is our responsibility as Muslims. We don't care what Fox News and Bill Maher and we don't care what these people say. But where are the Muslims that are representing Islam? I did for Eid last Saturday. I took some cupcakes. My wife baked some cupcakes and we went to all our neighbors and we gave them cupcakes telling them we're celebrating a holiday. It's Eid, Hajj, etc., etc. Here are some cupcakes. I amazed you, I don't think any of the neighbors, and unfortunately we live in a community nowadays, neighbors don't really talk to one another. You might say hello, how are you doing? Maybe you'll take somebody's trash out, that's about it. But it was amazing to see the response. Until today, one of my neighbors, she left a long note. She said, thank you for the delicious cupcakes, they were amazing. I want to know more about this celebration that you have. What is this holiday that you celebrate? You know, it's just if we all did our part. If every shahid told a ghaib, the message would be clear. No one would be scared. The media and everything that gets pumped into scaring people about Muslims, people wouldn't be scared. They see little girls giving cupcakes, and they say, wow, this is a beautiful thing, they're just like me. It's when we don't do our part, when we don't understand our deen well, when we don't practice our deen properly, and when we don't share the values of our deen, is that when we are put in a tight position and we don't know what to do. I ask Allah to give us an understanding of the faith. I ask Allah to allow us to live on the sunnah of Muhammad. I ask Allah to allow us to die on the sunnah of Muhammad. To understand and live and practice and preach the message as he taught it, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ask Allah to have mercy on all those that have passed away. Ask Allah to protect all those that are under the harm of anyone that's going to kill them. We ask Allah to give safety and enmity to the world, to bring safety and peace to the Muslim world. We ask Allah to allow us to be the carriers of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to be the messengers of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah to have shifa for all those that are sick, to have mercy on all those that have passed away, and to bring help to all those that are in need. My brothers and sisters, there is a couple of important announcements. The first one announcement, inshallah, I'll have the rest after the salah, is that tomorrow there is a special workshop, a special conference, I apologize, by Mass New York, in Yonkers, in Upper New York, in Yonkers, and the Rosia School, that there's a message, a conference on how Muslims can be more at service, how we can be at service to the community. How can we be more involved in helping the community at large? The conference starts at Dhuhr time, 1 o'clock, and it ends at Isha time at 9 o'clock. It's in Upper New York. There is a bus leaving from here. The tickets are $10. They can be purchased from the office. The bus is free. It will be leaving here. We encourage families. There will be lectures in Arabic and English. Youth, young and old, everyone is invited. Brothers and sisters, of course. Please do your best to share with us, inshallah, tomorrow, a day of learning how we can better serve the community as Muslims. Inshallah, again, the tickets are $10. They'll be in the office, and I can announce, inshallah, a little bit more after Salah. Inna Allah ya'muru bil 'adli wal ihsan wa ita'i dhil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha wal munkari wal baghi ya'idukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. اذكروا الله يذكركم واشكروه ولا تكفرون.